every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste, the therapist. Let's go.
All right. Hi, beautiful people. If you have never been in here before, my name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. And my goal and everything that I do is to just help people kind of shift the way they think. I've been able to do that by talking to people that are doing things to empower the lives of others. And I have been podcasting actually since 2018, but I decided to go live on video once the quarantine started. And this is my 4th week going live, talking to somebody that's empowering other people. So you can find my podcast. It's streaming literally on all podcasting platforms. So the episodes, this is where it looks like. And the episodes that you see here on video end up being turned into a podcast. So before I bring on my special guest, I wanted to, hey, my godmother's on. Before I bring on my special guest, I wanted to quickly put on this text crisis line, 741-741. This is a line that you can text at any time, and you will be connected to a crisis counselor. I think that now more than ever, it's important for us to make sure that we're staying connected. Sometimes, we may not have the language to talk about what we're going through or what we're dealing with, but I think that having this outlet to be able to just text somebody to say, like, I'm struggling, right? I think is important. And I think now, we're in our 4th week of quarantine, and I think that a lot of people are starting to feel some signs or some symptoms. And so that's why I'm really glad of my special guest who's coming. I'm going to have her come on and introduce herself. Her name is Toy Burton. Let me add her. Hello. Hi,
Hey,
Toy. Can you introduce yourself to the people?
Hi, my name is Toy Burton, and I am the founder and executive director of DeeDee's Cry.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And she is based out of Boston. And so before we kind of talk about what DeeDee's Cry is, I just kind of want my audience to kind of understand who you are as a person, to understand how it derived. So tell people what city did you grow up in?
I grew up in Roxbury, which is in Boston. It's a neighborhood in Boston. I was a teen mom. I had my first child when I was 15, my second daughter when I was 16.
What was that like for you being a teen mom?
It was scary.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. I had my family there to support me. I was still living at home with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had my family all around me. But it was scary. My first daughter, she was premature, so I had to have a C-section.
Mm-hmm.
So then with my second daughter, they also gave me a C-section. So, having surgery, that was fairly scary.
Mm-hmm.
And, nobody was in the room with me. They didn't let my mom in, and yeah.
So you had your 2 kids, and then it was you, and how many other people lived at home?
So I'm the youngest of 5.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And then what happened as you grew older? What was your adulthood like having these 2 children?
Well, when I was 19, I started drinking. And right after I started drinking, then my sister died by suicide. And that kind of escalated my drinking.
Was she somebody that was next in age with you?
No. So I was, I'm 2 years younger than my brother. And then my sister's 4 years older than me. Then DeeDee was 4. Tony's 5. Clennis is 3 years older than me. And my brother's 2 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when DeeDee passed away, did anybody say like, "Oh wow, I didn't know she was struggling"?
Well, the thing is, we knew she was struggling because she had attempted before,
Okay.
but at that time, I thought she was well. I thought she was better. You
Okay.
know, she had just moved. In my memory, she had just moved to Mattapan into a new apartment, her and her son. And to me, she was better. Things were looking good. Yeah.
On the outside, it
Yes.
appeared that things were looking good, but inside she was struggling.
Yes.
And so you had started drinking prior to her suicide, so her suicide must have kind of escalated.
Yeah, I started drinking New Year's Eve of 85 going into 86.
Uh-huh.
And she died in March of 86.
Okay. And then what did that do for you? Now you have these two kids, you already started drinking. What was your coping mechanisms like during that time?
Oh, I mean, it was all a blur. So when I first started drinking, it was like more of a weekend thing. Like my friends would come by and we would just drink in my room. Once my sister died, it just really just got out of hand. Like it wasn't like wait to the weekend type of thing. Like my sister DeeDee, she was the person who made me feel special. You know, being the youngest, they all make you feel special. But you know, DeeDee was the artist. Like she would draw and help me to draw, and I wanted to draw like her. And she would do poetry, and I wanted to write poetry like her. And she would read to me, and she introduced me to Langston Hughes and Richard Wright. You know, she made me feel like I was somebody.
So she was very special to you.
Yes, very special to me.
So that was a very hard loss.
Yes.
And did you pick up any other substances along the way, or did you kind of just stick with drinking?
No, when I was about 22, well, after that, I tried crack, but I really wasn't using it on the regular till about 22, 23 years old. And that was really bad. And so my mom had my girls, and then I was kind of homeless, sleeping with friends here and there. And then I was staying with my sister. Then she moved out to Lynn, and so I moved out to Lynn. So I lived on the North Shore for 21 years. So in 91, I had wanted to get clean. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of using. I want to get clean. I want to go home. I came back to Boston, and I checked into Mattapan River Street Detox in Mattapan, because to me, that's what people did when they wanted to get clean. They went to rehab. So I did that. Stayed there, went to Women's Hope, was there.
What was the aha moment? So it sounds like going into the detox, you on your own said, you know what, I want to get clean. But what's changed for you that made you go from using substances as a way of coping to saying, like, I want to try to do it a different way?
It was kind of like the people that I was around, they kind of just depressed me, that I was like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. I don't. I was like, I need to go home. I like just felt like I needed to be back in Boston.
Okay.
So, and when I got out of there, I did I was doing the steps. I was going to meetings, and I was talking in front of people, and I don't like talking in front of people, but I did it. And I stayed clean for, I think, 4 years. And then I fell off because I got complacent with it. It was New Year's Eve, which I never even made the connection just now. New Year's Eve, the guy I was with, he was like, oh, come on, just have a little sip. It's New Year's Eve and this and that. And eventually I was like, okay. And that lasted maybe a good 2 weeks before I was looking for crack all over again.
Okay, so now you're sober for 4 years, and you're saying, and what Toy is saying now, making the connection to New Year's Eve just now, is because she just explained how she started drinking New Year's Eve 20 years prior to that. So so it's interesting how when we start to, it's really like right now we're like intentionally talking about your history, how you start to connect the dots. So literally that's what happens. So now, how long did you start using again before you got sober again?
So for 2 years, I fell off for 2 years. And then in 98, I just started crying and got down on my knees and asked God to take it from me, which was my first time talking to him for me cussing him out when my sister died. So
okay.
when my sister died, I blamed God and was like, you're not my friend. Why would you do that? And this and that. And so that was my first time speaking to him again. And I was like, I don't want this anymore.
Okay.
And now it's over 21 years later, you know?
So you've been sober for 21 years?
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 22 in August, God willing. Yeah.
That is so amazing.
Yes.
During this time of you using or anything, did you ever try to attempt suicide or anything like that? Ever feel like you felt lost?
Yes, that I did. When I was about 25, I was coming home. My kids wasn't there. I was coming from drinking and drugging, and I just wanted the pain to stop. I just wanted the pain to stop. I went into my bathroom, took everything that was under the bathroom sink, comics, bleach, all that. Everything that was under there, made me a little cocktail, drank that. And then once I started feeling the effects, I kind of changed my mind. At that time, I realized I didn't want it to die, but I just wanted the pain to stop. I didn't know how to make the pain stop. So I made it to my neighbors and told them what I did, and they called the ambulance and took me to the hospital and pumped my stomach. And then they sent me home.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
So it's not even like I got help after that. So after that, I became a cutter, which I didn't know the term until later, which is I used to take knives or razors and cut my arm because the physical pain took away the emotional pain.
And the part about you getting your stomach pumped and the way that she said they sent me home because they just looked at you as just another addict, as opposed to looking at like, wow, she must be crying out for help. I feel like that was, and you know, you're a Black girl from Roxbury with a substance use history. And so nobody really asked you what was going on. You probably didn't even have language to express what you were feeling during that time. You just knew you were in pain.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted it to stop. And so even then I was still in the North Shore. So I was dealing with the doctors on the North Shore, which is a whole story altogether. You know.
So North Shore is north of Boston, and it's a different demographic. So so now, you know, right now when it comes to people that might be struggling with sobriety, because I think this is important, what would you say to somebody who might be listening to this and they're struggling with sobriety, and you got sober for 4 years, relapsed now 21 years. I always tell people, when you hear somebody who has a similar story and they've been able to stay sober, it gives you a little bit of hope. Like, what kind of message would you give to somebody that might be listening to this and struggling with sobriety?
So 21 years, I never thought about 21 years. It was just staying clean and sober that one day.
Yeah.
So this time being clean and sober, I didn't do like a sponsor. I haven't done meetings, but if that's the way you're clean and sober, then definitely stick with that way. With me, it's just asking God to keep it away from me when I wake up, and then thanking him at night when I make it through the day. That's what works for me. So I have to find what works for you. It could be talking to your pastor, talking to your family, going to meetings, getting a sponsor, check it in. But that's what works for me.
So Toy's message is, look at what works for you, take it one day at a time. 21 years ago, she wasn't like, I'm going to do this for 21 years. She said, I'm going to do this for the next day, and it turned into 21 years. That's so amazing that took place. Now you're sober, and your life is looking differently. What was it like not having your kids around during that time?
So my kids were back and forth. So when I got clean in 91, I took my mom to court, got them back. I went back to Section 8, which is like rental assistance, because I lost it because I broke my lease by just leaving and going back to Boston. So I had to like prove to them, like I left because I was a drug addict in a drug building, and I went to get clean and sober. So they gave it back to me, found a job, had to start working and everything. But yeah, it was hard. Not even say hard for me, hard for them, and hard for me watching them, going back and forth. Because first it was with my mother, and then they came to Lynn to be with me, and then it was, with my sister, then back with me, and back with my mom, and then eventually they stayed with my mom until they became teenagers and went out on their own.
Okay. So you still got to see them, but it wasn't as consistent. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that you're sober and you started to go on these different ventures because you are doing different things with your life right now. One, you're a preschool teacher. When did that start? Like, how did you start to say, like, I want to be a teacher?
Okay, so So when I was living in Swampscott, I was married, and my husband at the time, we were getting a divorce. And so I moved in with my youngest daughter, who lived in Lynn. So she was moving back to Boston. So that's how I got back to Boston. And my granddaughter had started at Dorchester Head Start. And I started volunteering. I started as a volunteer, and then something clicked to say, when you were younger, before the drugs happened, like you did wanted to be a teacher. So I went to school and got an associate's degree. Well, a friend of mine kept saying, like, Toy, go to school. And I'm like, no, I'm old. Like, I'm in my 40s. Like, I can't be going to school. It's like, yeah, go to school. And I thank him for that. I made Dean's List, and it was awesome. College was awesome. Yeah.
That's good. It's never too late. As long as you're still breathing, you can make changes. That's so awesome.
Yeah. And then so I graduated in 2015, and then it was summer and my birthday, and then I had a stroke just before I was about to go into UMass.
Dang.
So I'm like telling the hospital, like, I need to get out. Orientation's going to happen. I need to get out. And I got out. I had a hot machine, and I went back to work with my hot machine. I enrolled in 4 classes, and I was not ready. I was not ready. I was like, oh, I need to step back, because since I was, myself in a sense, I still didn't, I didn't realize, Toy, you had a stroke. Like,
right.
Life doesn't just continue on. Like you need to sit down. And so
you slowed down a little bit.
Yeah. And then went back, try to go back. And and so now I got college debt and no bachelor's degree, but I'll probably go back.
Okay.
Eventually. But it's funny because I never thought that I would be one to have my own organization. Like DeeDee's Cry was not on no radar. The Roxbury Unity Parade was not on no radar. My goal at that time was to get my bachelor's degree. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I need to get my bachelor's degree. I had a plan. I was like, I'm going to be an assistant teacher. Then I'm going to get my own classroom. After 2 years, I was assistant teacher for like maybe 3 months, 4 months. And then I got my own classroom. So everything works the way it's supposed to work, not the way I want it to work.
No, that's true. And so Toy brings up DeeDee's Cry. And earlier, if you just joined me, we are speaking to Toy Burton. She's the founder of DeeDee's Cry. DeeDee is her sister who passed away from suicide. And it's an organization you started 3 years ago, right?
Yes.
So tell people about, and I think that's DeeDee behind you.
Yes.
That's DeeDee behind you. Tell people a little bit about the organization and because you hearing Toy, she's saying that I thought I was going to go be a teacher and start climbing the ladder that way, but something shifted for you. Tell people about that
I thought I was going to stay married, but something shifted, you know? Yeah, but everything works out the way it's supposed to. So with DeeDee's Cry, it was her birthday. It would have been her birthday, and I posted on Facebook like I always do. I always share my story because you never know who it might help. And so I was putting it on her birth, on Facebook, like if my sister had lived, she died by suicide, she would have been 55. And this girl that I used to work with back in Salem, she had inboxed me like her brother had recently died by suicide, and she was asking me like, how do you deal with the pain and stuff? Because my sister died in 86, so my pain isn't fresh, even though it still hurts. It's not fresh. But I started to research. I'm like, let me see what I could find to help her. And what I noticed is that things didn't happen in Roxbury, Dorchester, or Mattapan.
So the areas she's listing is a low socioeconomic status in Boston, Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan. They're all neighborhoods in Boston, but they're low socioeconomic status.
And they're mostly neighborhoods of color.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, things were happening, say, Arlington or Newton or this and that. And I'm thinking like, what about Roxbury? What about us? Like, we need suicide prevention and mental health awareness. And the next day I was like, I'm going to start my own organization, and I'm going to name it after my sister. And it's going to deal with bringing resources to communities of color that is accessible to them. So when I told my family, of course, they're like, Toy, you're not a clinician. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. Like, trying to explain it to people was really hard. I was like, no. And then I had an event, the first event, which was DeeDee's Cry Heart for Suicide Awareness and Easter Egg Hunt. And my thought with DeeDee's Cry is I want to reach people who may not go to a mental health fair, but they'll take their kids to an Easter egg hunt. And the resources are there. So there's no judgment. They don't have to go into a clinic or worried about bumping into somebody, because the stigma is there.
Yeah.
They could be there with their family having fun and just go over to the resource table and get the resources and contact the organizations on their own time.
Wow, that is so amazing, because you're trying to think outside the box, and it started with somebody inboxing you for support to deal with the pain, and then something started going off in you.
Yep.
How has it been on this journey for the last 3 years of this organization? And do you feel like your sister spirit lives on through this organization?
Definitely. So even with the logo, well, I really don't have a logo. It's just her picture. And I hear things like, oh, use a different picture, or you need this. And I'm like, no, it has to be her picture. Like, no, I have to keep her memory alive. I don't want it to feel like she died in vain. So if I can help one person through this organization, then mission accomplished. But so what I was going to say. Oh, so when I started DeeDee's Cry, about the same time, I want to say in September, the Dorchester parade. I'm at the Dorchester Day parade, and I'm like, wait a minute, how come Roxbury doesn't have a parade? And I'm trying to explain to people, because they're like, no, Roxbury has Juneteenth. I'm like, that's not a parade. There's a Caribbean parade. Okay, the name itself is saying it's not for Roxbury. Like, we're proud too. Like, Roxbury need to be recognized too.
Right.
So DeeDee's Cry kind of took a back seat, where I got the Roxbury Unity Parade on its feet. And so the first year was funny because City Hall, why they wanted to cancel? Because it was raining. They wanted me to cancel. They called me the Friday before and wanted me to cancel because it was going to be bad weather. And I was like, no. And then last year it was a heat wave. And I was like, no, now this year is the coronavirus. Like, like, I don't know. So I don't know what's going to happen in July. I was supposed to have an event the past Saturday, which would have been the 3rd annual Hot for Suicide Prevention and Easter egg hunt. So of course that didn't happen. So I pushed that back into, I think, June. And I'm just calling it DeeDee's Cry Family Fun Day. And if I have to push it back again, I will.
So it sounds like there has been some stumbling blocks, and currently there still is, but you're still pushing forward and not allowing that to stop your mission.
Yes, because the funny thing with DeeDee's Cry, getting funding and having people give is really, really challenging. I don't know if it's the suicide stigma or the mental health stigma or the people of color stigma, but getting funding for DeeDee's Cry is very challenging.
What kind of message would you give to people who may be struggling with suicide or have lost somebody to suicide and they're struggling right now?
Definitely, there are a lot of organizations out there. Because like I said, I am not a clinician. DeeDee's Cry is about making sure the resources are accessible. So of course, there's the Samaritans, there's the Massachusetts Coalition for Suicide Prevention. They're therapists. Like I said, I had a therapist a couple of years ago. I was crying in public spaces and didn't know why. And I needed somebody to talk to. So there's definitely no shame with asking for help. Just don't give up. Like, we need you here. Like, if I would accomplish what I set out to do by drinking all that stuff at age 25, I wouldn't be here now telling this awesome story, being here for my 4 grandkids, life is definitely worth living.
Thank you for that. That is so good. That you turned your pain around, and it sounds like you're just kind of taking it one day at a time.
That's it. The struggles are still there. Trust me. I still have, my car keeps breaking down on me. I run out of money. The struggles are still there, but I deal with it with a clear head and just keep it into the moment. Just address it. Like, I realize when I don't address my problems, they just get worse. So just address it. You get a bill, just pay it. Don't let it keep going,
How powerful is it to be in the now? Because I think that's one thing that people are struggling with right now. It's easy to kind of, and I say it's easy to drink it away because in the moment it's easy, but obviously the problem is still there. How powerful has it been for you to just be in the moment despite the pain that you don't want to feel?
It's very powerful. And trust me, I reflect a lot. I do. Because it amazes me that I'm where I'm at. That is 21 years later, because I never thought that. So I often think, like, Toy, if you mess up, like, this all goes away. You go back to day one. Like, don't do that. Because, my friends still drink. I go to places and people having a drink and they look all fruity and good, but I'm like, no, like, God, you asked them to take it away. Why would you go back? So I just say, find your strength. Like, that's the thing. I didn't think that I was strong. Like, my self-esteem was so low. Like, I didn't think that people liked me. I didn't think that people loved me. I felt like I was an embarrassment to my family. I felt like I was an embarrassment to my kids. But I'm pretty awesome.
You are. You're so awesome, and I'm so glad you're here to tell your story.
You.
I have chills thinking about everything that you've talked about and everything that you've gone through. And people like you are why I started this podcast, because I really wanted to highlight the amazing people that's out here doing amazing work, like, despite what's happened. I think it's too easy to get stuck in the pain, right? Because it hurts so bad. Doing the work is hard, But on the other side, there's a lot of joy and there's some peace in it. So I know that your story is going to touch so many people.
I hope so. That's DeeDee's Cry motto. It's like what I say, when we share our stories, that we chip away at the stigma that's around mental health in communities of color.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much. If people want to follow DeeDee's Cry, how could they follow you?
So on Facebook, DeeDee's Cry, DeeDee_SCRY. Instagram, I'm kind of learning.
One day at a time.
Learning how to do that, but I did open an account, so DeeDee's Cry is on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I don't even know. I think I was married when I opened my Twitter account, so it's Toy Drew, my ex-husband's name, Toy Drew 1, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll figure it out. I'll put everything in the show notes for people that are listening to this on the podcast.
Yeah. But if you want to give to DeeDee's Cry, my fiscal sponsor is the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute. So you would write a check to the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute and put DeeDee's Cry on the memo, and you would mail it to 2 John Elliott Square, 2C, Roxbury, 02119. Oh, okay. And on May 13th, I was invited to be a presenter at the Massachusetts Department of Health Suicide Prevention Conference.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're part of the Massachusetts Coalition of Suicide Prevention Alliance of Equity. So we'll be presenting. So
wow, that's good.
They're doing it online this year. I was a presenter last year. I was like, my first time like talking in front of 500 people. I was so scared. And nervous.
Congratulations. That's so awesome.
Thank you. I was like, wow, look how God just moves, you know?
Okay, so that's May 13th.
Yes, May 13th.
And it's called the Massachusetts?
It's the Suicide Prevention Conference, and that is by the Massachusetts Department of Health. I want to say it's the 19th annual Suicide Prevention Conference.
Congratulations. That's so freaking awesome. I'm so excited for you to be recognized by the state and come on as a presenter. That's so amazing. Yeah. And I think that suicide is something that's kind of brushed under the rug. People don't want to talk about it when it happens. And there's so many people that are struggling and in silence. So like DeeDee's Cry, like the fact that DeeDee was crying out and needed support. And so I think the name that you created for it is amazing, because it's like, it's okay. Like we're going to help you find these resources that you need. Because if we get stuck in the feeling, it's easy to make a decision based off of what we're feeling in the moment. Because that pain can feel so strong. Mm-hmm. So I'm so grateful. Your story is so inspiring. Thank you for making time to be here and share with my audience. Was it bad? Was I bad? Was I easy on you?
Yes, you was. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm still nervous. I still feel my body shaking.
Oh, well, we're done. You can take a deep breath. We're done. We're done, Toy. You did a good job.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, take a deep breath. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to say bye to you. I appreciate you and everything.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was so good. I'm so grateful to her for coming on and sharing her story with us. Truly inspiring. I didn't know all of her story. I learned it with you guys. So that was awesome. And then if you just came in, this is going to be on the podcast. So I'm going to have all of the information. If you want to support DeeDee's Cry, I'll have all that stuff and the information to do so. She lets people, I wish she could stay longer. I know, she was awesome. And she was nervous and she did so good. I just love her. I was going to say something. She, with her story, like being able to keep pushing on, and for her to say, oh, it's too late. I hear people say that all the time, it's too late. And she's like, nope, I kept pushing on, and to start an organization 3 years strong. And I think it's so unique to have an Easter egg hunt and have the resources there, thinking about how can I get people to come. Like Easter egg hunt, you're not thinking about mental health, but we're gonna push a little mental health in there for you so you can get it right. I love it. That's so amazing and inspiring. So thank you guys for tuning in to another live podcast of Celeste the Therapist podcast. I'm beyond grateful to everybody. Oh, and we're almost at 90,000 downloads, and we're in 121 countries. So this time next month, we will be at 100,000 downloads. I really want to have an online celebration. I don't know what that would look like. I've never celebrated online before. But everybody's quarantined, so I gotta really thank you, Wes. I gotta really think outside the box. So I do want to do something to celebrate. I mean, 100,000 is a lot for somebody that is just kind of winging it. I've been just kind of, every day's a party with me. I know that's right. That's true. You're right about that, Wes. So I'm gonna figure out what we're gonna do, but I want to do something because I'm excited and I'm grateful to everybody that comes on, that watches me, that shares my episodes, that my guest, for Toy and her transparency, she didn't have to do that, but I'm grateful to her for doing that. So I love you guys so much. I'll be back tomorrow. We got a new guest coming at you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.
Every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist. Let's go.